Yo, what up city building nerds? If you are looking for new and upcoming city builders, there are many that are big and exciting, and I want to show some of these off today in the upcoming year, because there's always new city builders to look forward to. There are, if you didn't know, thousands of upcoming in-development simulation games, so even though we might seem like we have a lot in these lists that I make, it's actually just the top sampling of things. So, getting started in the upcoming city building genre, Beyond These Stars. This is a city builder where you are harvesting resources and managing production chains on the back of a giant space whale. And this is actually the sequel to Before We Leave, which was a city builder in a similar vein that looked something like this, and it was building up on a planet where you are a civilization re-emerging from an underground vault, and you had to rebuild your city and then later on colonize the solar system and build up and prepare for these giant space whales to come and eat your planet in kind of an apocalyptic event. This time around, well, joke's on those whales, we're living on them now, so unless they're gonna eat each other, I think we're gonna be okay. Or will we? Because as we travel through space on the backs of these space whales, we'll be building more outposts, meeting aliens, and uncovering mysteries of the universe. So overall, Before We Leave was a pretty solid game, and Beyond These Stars is an upcoming one, and if it's just somewhat better, then it's gonna be a great time. And also, the trend of moving cities in city building games has come and gone, but it doesn't mean it has to be gone entirely. The Wandering Village just fully released, and that's a pretty solid game as well, and I think we were oversaturated on moving cities for a while. But a good city building game is a good city building game, and we can hope that's the case with Beyond These Stars. For some vertical nature, DarkSwitch. Here's a new, more recently announced city building game that does actually have a free demo on Steam if you want to check out an early build of it, and it's a vertical survival city builder. You're building on a giant tree and you're defending it against the fog. You face challenges of limited space on where you can build things because you're building on a tree, so you don't have a lot of land to work with, and there's limited resources and tough moral choices. So you are surviving as best as you can with limited everything as you build up and defend your settlement. What we've seen so far of this game does seem pretty promising. You set up new airship routes to trade with and establish far outposts, excavating rare resources and artifacts to bring back to the big tree, and you uncover the remnants of an ancient civilization as you shape your citizens' destiny through some very complex moral decisions that you have to make. Generally, this is feeling like a nature-styled approach with vertical city building of Frostpunk, and there's going to be a campaign mode promising up to 12 plus hours of single-player story-driven gameplay with branching narratives. There's going to be a sandbox mode, there's over 80 unique buildings to build, 11 resource types, technology levels, and apparently a soundtrack from the composer of the Silent Hill series. So generally speaking, DarkSwitch is a somewhat different take on the city building genre, and it's mixing in some other things. So whether you consider this a pure city builder or not, it's on an individual level for you to decide that. But I think overall, this is one that is going to be interesting watching moving forward. Moving on, Whiskerwood. At first glance, this might look like a Timberborn clone, and I don't think there's any getting away from that. But Timberborn is Timberborn, and Whiskerwood has some different aspects to it. So first of all, instead of beavers, this is mice, and there's a cat overlord. So you are establishing a home for your industrious mice, but you are being oppressed, held down by the oppressive paw of your cat overlords. In Timberborn fashion, you are somewhat building a city, but also building a factory with production chains and all of that managing of resource logistics. And there can be some games on this list and in general where they're mixing city building with factory sim management. and it's sometimes hard to clearly define a game into one or the other genre. But the main point with genres is to help people find what they're looking for. So if I think a certain game is what a city builder player is looking for, I will include it on this list. So Whiskerwood, it does look somewhat improved compared to older games. And you'll be building on islands, and there's ships and shipping, where there's some more water mechanics, and colonists arrive, and you build ships at docks to scout beyond your island. So it's like Timberborn plus a little bit of Anno and some other things in there. So I don't think Whiskerwood is just trying to be a Timberborn reskin. They are trying to do their own things here. And that's sometimes how we get some of the best games ever. Will Whiskerwood be one of the best games ever? We cannot guarantee that right now, but there's gonna be 40 different commodities for you to gather, manufacture, or trade. You have to fulfill feline demands, otherwise you get in trouble, and you can build intricate mazes of conveyor belts, ramps, elevators, slides to move your mice around. There's also some water mechanics and steam with piping and wells and radiators and all that. So Whiskerwood, it does look very promising, and that's one upcoming city builder that I think we should keep an eye on at least. Then for one that we have been watching for a while, Pompeii the Legacy. Fun fact or unfun fact, we actually went 15 years without a Roman city builder. And that seems impossible to believe, but I looked into it, that is the case. From 2009 with Grand Age's Rome, we then didn't get any ancient Roman city builder for 15 years until 2024, where suddenly we've got a lot of them again. So if you see a lot of ancient Roman city builders these days and think it's too many, well, it's okay. We went 15 years with 0 of them, and Pompeii the Legacy is one of the newest ones, and it is of course set around the themes of Pompeii, where there's a giant volcano. But it is an ancient Roman city builder, so you'll be dealing with politics, intrigues, surviving the everything that happens in ancient Rome. There's laws that you can shape, you expand trade across the empire. You will of course face disasters, particularly a giant volcano, and you're commanding legions in optional real-time battles. It's interesting that the combat here is very specifically said to be optional, because I do know a lot of city building players, they can be split in their opinions between whether combat and military is important, or even if combat is included optionally in a game. I have received a number of comments where if combat is introduced even optionally, they find that the game is distracted from the city building. Because even if it's optional, well, development resources and gameplay mechanics are built around the idea that there could be combat, so the city building could be compromised. I don't know, I don't really find that the case, but I thought I should clarify that the combat here is specifically optional, which may or may not cater to your tastes. Visually, this one is looking better than its earlier looks, and it seems to be coming along. It's supposed to be entering early access towards the end of 2025, looking at about 6 months in early access, but I generally never believe the timeline on how long a game is supposed to be in early access. They very commonly say 6 months to a year, 6 months to 12 months, and then it just takes like 5 years. So Pompeii the Legacy, it will be entering early access and it'll be playable. From that point on, anything could happen through early access. Speaking of ancient Roman city builders, Nova Roma is one of the most hyped and anticipated upcoming city builders. And you might be wondering why. At first glance, this seems like a low poly, simple little indie thing, but this is from the developers of Kingdoms and Castles, which is a very successful city builder from 2017. Just for context, that has received almost 20,000 user reviews on Steam at over 90% positive. Although it might not be the most popular game today, Kingdoms and Castles did hit its stride. And Nova Roma is the next game from these developers. It seems to be an ancient Roman take on their previous formula. There's gods and powers happening, there's fluid water dynamics, and generally you are building Rome in a low poly world. with complex supply chains which you need to set up and manage to meet your needs of your citizens. This is a survival resource management city builder, as you would expect, and I think the way it looks is gonna be important here. If you like the way it looks or you're okay with the way it looks, then this is gonna be one to watch. If you can't stand the low poly or voxel aesthetic, then this one, you might want to consider it, but not liking these graphics is, it's personal preference. It's nothing wrong with that. There are other games on this list that you will be more interested in, but I thought I should tell all of you about Nova Roma, and it's hopefully going to be releasing in some form soon. For a cozy one that many of you have been talking about, Town to City. This is a voxel game that just looks like a charmingly wonderful 3D pixel game. Town to City, at first glance, you might think it's one of those casual, cute, relaxing games where you're just kind of sandboxy building things around. But Town to City is actually kind of a city builder, and it has stuff that expands on the earlier games. Now, this is from the developers of Station to Station, which was a train puzzle game, and that also kind of feeds into the idea that maybe this is not quite a full-on city builder. I think this is reaching that point where if you're a city building player, you would be interested in this. And also, nothing else quite looks like this. It's a semi-modern setting to it, so there's not much in that space as we know, but also it's a voxel approach to visuals, which it is hard to execute. So in this one, you are shaping your city. It is a creative game because you are customizing and decorating it exactly how you want it to be, but you are also growing your economy. You're assigning jobs, researching new buildings and decorations, and you're boosting your sleepy settlement into a bustling center of commerce as you expand out. There's a campaign, sandbox modes, it's gridless city building, there's town and citizen management, lots of customization, a photo mode, because you need one in a game like this, and it's just chill, relaxing vibes. So Town to City is one that I think some of you will be really interested in, particularly when so many of the others are either super complex, detailed, mechanical, logistical nightmares, or super difficult survival city builders where you need to fight against the environment. Town to City fills the other side of things. Nice, chill, relaxing times with creative stuff as well. Now, of course, I do have to mention Anno 117 Pax Romana. It's the new mainline Anno game, and it is an ancient Rome setting, but it also has some ancient Britain themes to it as well. It's very ancient Rome conquering Europe sort of vibes, but of course this is all fictional settings. Anno games are never historical campaigns, they just have historical settings. It's an Anno game, so of course you're dealing on islands and building up villages and towns and cities to harvest resources and manufacture goods and move resources around and trade using ships. And there's gonna be naval combat as well here, and there is all the good stuff from Anno that you would expect. It also visually looks pretty good. Of course, we have to say that this is a Ubisoft game, which has been in the news recently for various things you probably don't agree with. So that is something to take into consideration. The Anno team, I have heard, is generally doing its own thing, and that's why, you don't expect the same people working on Assassin's Creed to be in any way involved with the people working on Anno 117. They're like different studios, they're different people. How things are approached are different. But with the Anno 117 demo being released, there have been some quirks, we could say, that have raised some eyebrows. Just personally, and I think for many others as well, the voice acting is a bit... the voice acting is literally a bit modern, and I'm not sure if that's the vibe. But they have said that the demo that went up is a few months old, which is somewhat understandable, and also I don't know why they released a demo that's so outdated. So they could have already changed the voice acting, they could have already changed a lot of the mechanics, but we don't know until it actually releases. This is one where if you're gonna jump in, you probably want to double check what it is before buying into it. because the demo is not going to be representative of the game either. Now, I do understand that updating a demo and creating a new public build takes resources, it costs money, it's not something that you can just always do, it's not free to do either, it takes time. And it takes resources to make demos. It's a bit weird that they released a demo without making it very clear that it is an old demo, because I do have a video on my channel where I'm playing the game, and it was an early build from months ago, and I think the demo is that build. It might be slightly different, but it's from around that time, according to what they've said. So basically, the video of me playing the game from April is actually the demo that everyone's playing now, and it is very not finished based on my experience back then as well. Anno 117, it is an ancient Roman themed city builder. It is the next mainline Anno game, but it also is probably going to get a bunch of DLCs, and it's going to be very expensive to get the whole thing. I mean, there's the older Anno games if you want to jump into the series and haven't already. 1404 or 1800 are the best candidates right now. But this, of course, is coming up right at the end of 2025, so people will be playing Anno 117 through 2026. And then for one that we have been waiting on, The First Explorers. This is a city building game with RTS mechanics in the vein of The Settlers, and The Settlers' successors have been abound. This isn't the only one on this list either, and after the somewhat stumble of the official Settlers series, many are trying to take up the mantle and tackle this formula. So The First Explorers does mix RTS into its city building elements, and you are playing as the Romans, the Carthaginians, or the Gauls, and you build a village and harvest resources and manage your economy while you raise an army and conquer land. So this is not just city building, it is quite militaristically focused, and it is straddling that line between city building and RTS, but it's Settlers-esque. In the more modern version, but it is also meant to be good. The First Explorers has been coming along for a while, and it is meant to be going into early access and staying in there for up to 12 months, which may or may not be true, but we have been kind of waiting for it to enter early access. They've been showing off gameplay videos, new screenshots, it's looking promising. I can't imagine it will be entering early access any later than 2026. It should be playable in 2026 at least anyway. We haven't gotten a proper hands-on experience with First Explorers yet, but it is one to watch. Speaking of Settlers' successors, Pioneers of Pagonia. Already in early access and has been since right at the end of 2023 to mostly positive user reviews on Steam. Now this one, again, it said it was going to be in early access for at least 12 months. It does say at least this time. Maybe longer, depending on what we learn. It's been longer. But this one has been building up, and it is now fully set to release into 1.0 right at the end of 2025. So if you have been waiting on this spiritual successor to The Settlers, which was kind of started by the original Settlers developer, Pioneers of Pagonia is fully releasing for the start of 2026. Now, this is, again, a city builder where you harvest resources and manage production chains, but there's a bit more of a fantasy element to Pioneers of Pagonia. It's not so much historically set, it's more magically themed. It is still a Settlers-esque game where you then raise some armies or soldiers to go out and conquer lands and deal with the threats of the wilderness, you could say. So Pioneers of Pagonia, we have been watching it for a long time now, since it was upcoming into its early access, through its early access, and now finally it is fully releasing. What could possibly be the best city builder of 2026? It's Tropico 7. Now, the city building genre itself as a whole has had its ups and downs. There was a golden age in the 90s, it went through an experimental phase in the early 2000s, it was pretty much dead around the 2010s, but then it had a revival, and then a resurgence and a renaissance, and into a whole new modern era of city building. And through pretty much all of that, except the 90s, Tropico has been a consistent presence. Even when no one else was making city building games, even as the city building genre was waning and dying, Tropico 4 and 5 released, and It's always been there, and it's a modern setting as well. In the city building genre, we don't get a lot of modern set games. They tend to be fantasy or medieval or historical or even sci-fi. Sci-fi is not common, but it's still more common than a modern urban setting. And it's because there's so much competition with the City Skylines series. Despite how much people say City Skylines 2 sucks, well, if you look at the numbers, City Skylines 2 is the second most played city builder in the world, just slightly behind City Skylines 1. So in the top 300 most played games on Steam, for context, quite often there is only City Skylines 1 and 2 pretty much next to each other. There's a lot of difficulty competing in that space, but Tropico goes on this dictatorial, greedy, naughty approach where you are running a banana republic where, yeah, you have to keep your people happy, but it's mainly to enrich yourself. And it's got this comedic approach to things, which I know not everyone is a fan of, but there isn't anything else really like Tropico. And Tropico 7, it is seeming to take the Tropico 6 building on that formula, while also bringing back certain things. You want to probably know that, yes, there are going to be political speeches again. There's going to be 5 campaign maps. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but Tropico maps tend to go on for a while. There's archipelagos, scenarios, sandbox maps, a random map generator. You can literally move mountains and create beaches, so there's more terraforming in this one. It's supposed to be a bit more sandboxy with this stuff. And yes, of course, Generalissimo and Penultimo return. Tropico 7, it is currently the most promising city builder of 2026, and unless something big comes along surprisingly unannounced, this is probably going to be the best city builder of 2026. Now, I do have to mention Manor Lords, which in recent times, its Steam user reviews has dropped from very positive to mixed, and it's because it's taking so long to do updates. Manor Lords was meant to release in 2025, and it's been coming along and it's made some updates and improvements in its first year of early access, but then it kind of went into a lull. It's not that it's a bad game. Manor Lords looks amazing, it's wonderfully optimized, surprisingly magically so. Plays like a survival city builder, a medieval city builder. There's RTS military, there's region conquering and stuff, so there's a lot to it already. But what it's promising to be is a lot more. And after going so long without getting clear updates, it gets a bit tiring waiting on an update. They say they are gonna be releasing a big update at some point, but I don't think it's gonna be releasing soon. But in 2026, if that big update comes along, then this is going to be a nice step forward. But it is a bit tiring waiting on any kind of update. And before some of you say that this is a solo developer, that's why it's taking so long, Manor Lords started as a solo dev project. It is not anymore. It has a publisher called Hooded Horse, which publishes a lot of great games. And also, there's a team working on the game now. If you go to the main menu of Manor Lords, click on credits and read all the names. It's not a solo dev anymore. So we can hope Manor Lords gets that big update. But if it doesn't, it is still a popular game, and lots of people are playing it. It's in the top 10 most played city builders in the world right now. So Manor Lords is not bad. People are just getting a bit anxious and tired of waiting for the next update, which is drawing down the recent reviews. The game hasn't gotten worse, it just hasn't gotten better, which was the promise. So that's why you always have to take Steam user reviews with the context of why it is. Because going from very positive, almost 90% positive, dropping down to recent reviews of 60% when the game hasn't changed? So like, what's that about? You gotta look into it. But anyway, Manor Lords, we can hope for the big update to land, and maybe it'll fully release within a year. To talk about one that has been in early access for a long time, and I'm going to stop mentioning this soon if they don't announce a full release date, Timberborn. Yes, we know Timberborn. It's the Beaver city builder. For full transparency, they have sponsored me in the past, and it's got overwhelmingly positive user reviews on Steam at 95% positive. It's been in early access since the end of 2021, so we are crossing 4 years in early access soon. And honestly speaking, Timberborn feels like a complete game at this point, and they just keep adding more content to it. That's not really how I prefer games to go, but it is obviously working for them. Timberborn is very popular, very well reviewed. Can't really complain about it. It's just been in early access for a long time, and it does keep getting better. It does keep getting improved. It's just semantics and labels at this point. That's what Timberborn is. Still in early access, it's considered very, very good. Maybe it'll fully release in 2026, or 2027, or 2028. I will expect Timberborn to release before the end of the decade. Maybe. But yeah, if you don't know Timberborn already, you can go look it up. Looking forward while also looking back, Surviving Mars relaunched. So Surviving Mars is probably one of the most, if not the most popular sci-fi city builder. It's building up on a survival city builder on Mars. This relaunched version is not so much just a remaster or a remake, it's the concept that we've been getting more recently and more popularly recently, where it's an expansion of the game. You take the original game, you make it look better, you add a bunch more content, re-release it with kind of a definitive edition. So it's a mix of a remaster, a mix of a remake, a mix of an expansion in a new release. And this time Relaunched is reworking some of the older content so that it is better and more what people wanted. There's rival colonies, competing sponsors, you're all trying to develop Mars as best as you can, but also balancing critical resources like oxygen, water, power, food, because you need to keep your colony alive. There's the extensive research tree and discovery of new tech to expand your colony. There's also below and beyond, where you're building underneath the Martian surface. There's randomized maps, mysteries to uncover, and terraforming of things. But I don't know if this counts as a new upcoming game. I suppose it's one that you would be interested in knowing about if you're looking for upcoming city builders. So Surviving Mars relaunched. It's not fully a new game, but it's probably something you want on your radar. Speaking of these definitive editions, Frostpunk 1886. This is a re-release of Frostpunk, one of the most popular city builders, survival city builders in the world. Now, if you don't know Frostpunk, it's surviving in a post-apocalypse in a frozen Earth. And the whole world has frozen over, your city has a central heating pillar, and you build your city in a ring around the heating pillar. The first Frostpunk game is generally more popular and considered to be more of a city builder than its sequel, Frostpunk 2, where Frostpunk 2 more sided on the society management and government side of things, so it felt more of a simulation game rather than a city builder particularly. So the popularity of Frostpunk 1 continued, and Frostpunk 1886 is that expansion of upgrading the engine, making the graphics better, and they're going for 70% of the original experience, 30% of brand new content. So essentially, this is going to be revamping the game, rejudging the game, adding in a lot of new content as well. So 30% completely new content. If you've recently played Frostpunk 1, then you probably don't want to jump straight into this because it's going to be pretty much the same. But if you haven't played it in like 4 or 5 years, or you've never played Frostpunk, then you might want to wait for Frostpunk 1886, which is currently scheduled to release in 2027. So we're looking a bit further ahead here, but this is one of the most anticipated upcoming city builders. This will be running in an improved Unreal Engine. There's mod support. And there's gonna be more news and stuff coming along, with new events, mechanics, buildings, and a purpose path. Frostpunk 1886, it's a bit ways out. It's one that you probably want to know about. Those are the upcoming city builders that I want to talk about. However, if you're on this list, you might be wondering about some other games, and because I did mention that city building and factory sims and RTS tend to mix things around a little bit, you might be interested in Factory Town 2, because Factory Town 2 was announced and it's going to be releasing early in 2026. And this is explaining itself as a town builder slash factory sim. And I would side on this being on the simulation management kind of things and a factory sim, which I would do a simulation list and factory list, which would include this game for sure. But since you might be wondering where it is, I thought I should tell you that Factory Town 2 is on the way as well. It is one of the most hyped factory games. The first one was very positively reviewed on Steam at over 90% and was generally popular. Factory Town 2 is meant to be an expansion visually and mechanically from that. A good factory game is always nice. It is called Factory Town, so it does mix in a few city building mechanics because you are actually building a town on a deserted island, placing houses, farms, production buildings, and shops. So there is a town aspect, but also mainly I think for this one, it is factory, and something you might want to get into if you really like the logistic resource management side of things. And also on the topic of simulation games that probably aren't quite city builders, Transport Fever 3 was also announced for 2026, and this is one that I would put in the factory train simulation type lists, so another video. But there are a lot of people who think of Transport Tycoon as a city building game as well because there are cities that are being built. I personally don't consider them to be city building games because the mechanics are more on the logistic transportation side of things. This is called Transport Fever 3. That's where I would categorize that. But if you're looking for games like that, Transport Fever 3 is a big one that was announced for 2026. If you want to do the logistical moving things around, then this is one for you. All right, there you go. That was a bunch of games. Which one was your favorite and which ones do you think I should have mentioned in this list of big upcoming city builders? I hope you enjoyed this. If you'd like to support the channel, do click the GOG referral link down below to get any game and it will help support, or you can check out the Patreon. Thank you. All right, that's gonna be it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Continue the journey with the videos linked on screen, and I will see you in one of those next videos.